Hello friends, this is Worm, and I wanted to take today to talk about the change at Bungie that's going to be happening in the next couple of months, which is Joe Blackburn leaving the game director position and Tyson Green taking over. Of course, if you missed it, just to briefly recap, Joe Blackburn over on his Twitter said that he will be leaving the game director position and Tyson Green will be taking over. I want to point something out before we go any further here. Joe leaving the game director position does not mean that he is leaving Bungie. It does not mean that he's abandoning Destiny 2, anything like that. I've seen a lot of speculations that he's leaving Bungie because he's jumping ship, as lots of people say. But it doesn't mean that. Luke Smith, which I think was the original game director, he's still at Bungie. He's now the entire Destiny franchise director, so he's doing, you know, the TV series that is allegedly in the make. He's covering the game. He does any, you know, comics or anything like that. Like he's in charge of everything like that. But he was at one point the game director. So we don't know. Maybe Joe is moving up the ladder. Maybe he's going to a different position at Bungie. Maybe he's moving over to Marathon. We don't really know. So I don't think that he just got fired or that he's quitting Bungie and jumping ship. But with that being said, I want to talk about the future of Destiny 2 the way I see it, because I know a lot of other YouTubers have talked about the future of Destiny 2 and what it means with Joe Blackburn leaving the game director position at Bungie. I want to keep pointing that out. But with that being said, Joe Blackburn has been the game director for, I want to say 3 or 4 years now. It's 2024. He started in 2019, 2020, or sorry, 2020, I think it was around 2020. Maybe it was 2021, maybe it was 2019. I can't really remember exactly when he started, but he's been doing it for 3 or 4 years now. And that's pretty average for a game director. Luke Smith was on as game director for a couple years. Mark Noseworthy was on as game director for a couple of years. Joe Blackburn was on as game director for a couple of years. Now Tyson Green, we're gonna move on to Tyson Green, and he'll be game director, hopefully for a couple of years in Destiny 2. And I want to talk about some of the I don't want to say the negatives, but the downsides of Joe leaving. Of course, Joe has been the most interactive game director that we've had. He had some, you know, those streams where he talked about various things in Destiny. He's done, you know, the video after the state of the game post. You know, they made that state of the game post, which was absolutely horrible, and Joe came on afterwards and really, I mean, he should have been a community director too, because Joe's little video that he did post state of the game article really saved Destiny 2, in my opinion. That was one of the times that Destiny 2 was saved by Joe doing that. And so he's always been a very lovable person at Bungie. He's interactive with the community, which is huge. We love that. We like our game developers and our game directors especially to be interactive with the community, so that's fantastic. And Joe, he's had a lot of decent input. You know, he's done a lot of good things in terms of directing where the game is going, so to speak, you know. And so, yeah, like, we are gonna miss him, but I think that also a change in leadership is kind of what is necessary, because as much as we love Joe, let's take out the personal element and let's look at where the game has been for the past 3 or 4 years. And I'll be honest, guys, the game has not been in the best state for the past 3 or 4 years, especially the past like year and a half. I would even go as far back to say maybe 2 years, with the exception of Witch Queen. The game hasn't been in the best state. The seasonal model is stale. People have complained about various activities that it's too repetitive. You know, it's the same thing. We get a seasonal storyline that we have to follow. We get a seasonal activity that we have to do an ungodly number of times. We have no new strikes. We have no new this, no new that, blah, blah, blah. And remember, Joe has been the game director for all of this. And I know that Joe was not solely responsible for the decisions that are made by the higher ups at Bungie. Joe is, you know, he's the game director, he's the leader of the project, but he's not the shot caller, so to speak, on a lot of things, especially when it comes to not marketing, but just general game aspects, such as, you know, maybe new elements to the game, stuff like that, because Joe doesn't have the ability to hire people to, hey, we need some developers that we can hire to go do this new activity for Destiny 2. That's on people that are higher up. But Joe had a guidance over Destiny 2. Like, he's the one that could guide Destiny 2 on where it's going, and he chose to stay with that seasonal model, and he chose to stay with that repetitiveness in terms of the seasonal mission, the seasonal activities. And granted, I know that maybe the higher ups were telling him we're sticking to the seasonal model, so I'm not blaming the seasonal model on Joe, not blaming the seasonal model on Joe at all, but he's the one that was directing the game when we had all these things that people were complaining about. The repetitiveness, the lack of loot, the lack of, just general spontaneousness and fun in the game. Like, Joe has been the director for all of that. And again, like, he's been very personable, which I love that. I love that he's done live streams. I loved his video talking about the state of the game. Like, I am sad to see him go, but at the same time, maybe it's a good thing. Plus, for him, like, it's gotta be exhausting. It's gotta be exhausting to pour your heart and soul into a game and people just constantly complain about it, and watching, players start dropping off like flies. Like, that's got to be exhausting, and that's got to be, almost heartbreaking in a way. I mean, I'm trying to imagine it from Joe's perspective, and I don't know exactly, like, all the ins and outs of Joe's job, right? So, like, I think it's very important that we all admit we do not know how to do the game director position. And I probably should have added this at the start of the video. Like, this is all just kind of speculation on my part. It's not me saying, yeah, this is how it is, or this isn't how it is. This is all just my interpretation of what's going on. And so I don't want people to, take my word as gospel or anything like that, or, say I don't know what I'm talking about, because honestly, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just giving my opinions here. But with that being said, Joe was behind the wheel when we've had this stagnation in Destiny for the past however long. So maybe it's a good thing that Joe's moving on to bigger and better things. And I would assume I pray for him. I hope that he's moving on to bigger and better things. And I'm hoping that Tyson Green will come in here and really beef up the game and really just change things as an entirety. If I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere that Joe has basically been in charge of everything up to the final shape and throughout the first episode. And he's kind of had the say-so in that. So post episode 1, I think that's when Tyson Green is going to start taking over as game director, and we'll see if things change. Who knows? Maybe things don't change. Maybe everything stays the same. Maybe Tyson Green is somebody who they're just throwing in there because they needed somebody to replace Joe. I don't know. I don't have inside information at Bungie. But I also would like to point out that Tyson Green has been at Bungie for like 20 something years. Like, he's been there for Halo. In fact, I think he was the Halo multiplayer design lead or something like that. And we're going to talk about multiplayer here in just a second. But he's been at Bungie for a long time. Like, he knows his stuff. He knows Bungie, and I would put money on it that he definitely knows the Destiny 2 player base. He probably, of course, plays the game, but he probably watches the forums. He watches YouTube videos about what people are thinking about in Destiny, and he probably is excited to take this position. I know if I was Tyson Green, I would be excited to take the position to see what I can do to bring players back to the game. Okay, I would be very, very delighted to do that, and I think that it's going to be a good thing. Hopefully, especially for PvP, with Tyson Green being the Halo multiplayer director, whatever it was. I can't remember the exact title, but he was really high up in terms of the multiplayer stuff. Maybe we'll see some more PvP improvements. Maybe we'll see some more love come to PvP, which I think would be absolutely fantastic. But this video isn't about the state of PvP or anything like that. It's more, talking about my thoughts on Joe leaving. It is sad, it is hard, but I think this is definitely a change that kind of needed to happen. Joe, as game director, was not really getting the job done. Like, he had some bangers. He had Witch Queen under his belt. Witch Queen was freaking great. I thought Beyond Light was also pretty good. I mean, say what you will about Beyond Light, but I thought Beyond Light was pretty good. I'm pretty sure he was a game director for Beyond Light, but Witch Queen was absolutely fantastic. He's got some really good accomplishments under his belt, but I think overall, the way the game has been going for the past couple years, it feels like it's been going downhill. And this is not based on player numbers. This is not based on, how much money Bungie's making. This is based on a player's experience. My experience in Destiny 2 over the past few years it's been going downhill. And so maybe Joe leaving is not the worst thing in the world. In fact, maybe it's actually what the game needs to be more healthy, to be better, to be more fun. And I don't know. I mean, that's all I really have to say about it. I mean, like I said, I think Joe was a fantastic guy. I would have loved to meet him in person because I think that he's he's very friendly. He was fantastic as a community, not manager, but he was a community, conversationalist. And that's another thing I want to point about Joe that made him such a great game director. He shouldered the weight of all the developers. Of course, we know that a couple years ago, Bungie, we had the community managers way back in the day, like Deej, Cosmo, DMG, stuff like that. But I want to say it was when DMG was the community manager, like Destiny took a massive hit from toxicity from the players. And Bungie said, nope, we're going to cut off communication, like no more communicating to people through your own private accounts. You're only going to go through the Destiny 2 dev team. Because I mean, these, not all Destiny players, but these toxic ass trash human beings that play Destiny 2 were sending death threats and stuff to the community managers, which that's completely unacceptable. You should never threaten anybody. You can constructively criticize, which is what we do over here on the channel all the time, but you should never send death threats to people. And Bungie said, no more. We're not going to put our people at risk. And for years, the Destiny 2 dev team account was what we had to go with. Joe broke that barrier by saying, hey, I'm going to do streams. He was the one that was shouldering the weight of the people who, wanted to talk smack, I would assume death threats, the just overall toxicity. Like, he shouldered that weight. And I think that's something that I really cannot express how impressive of an accomplishment that was, because that's a lot of weight. I mean, we've all been criticized. We've all had somebody say, oh, your shoes are ugly or your hair looks stupid, something like that. And that lingers over our heads. It's inevitable. And of course, as you get older and you learn more and you have more interaction with people, a lot of it just kind of flies over. But when you have millions of people, or maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of people looking at Joe Blackburn for whatever it is going on in Destiny and blaming him for everything that's going on in Destiny, like, that's a lot of weight to bear. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think Joe is solely to blame for the state of Destiny 2 currently. I really don't. I think that's more of a decision coming from higher up and a lack of just development and a lack of care for Destiny 2. I think it's a bunch of things combined. I don't think it's all on Joe. I mean, he'll be missed for sure, but to shoulder that weight of the toxic community just bearing down on you, maybe that's one of the reasons why I left. Maybe he said, I've had it for 3 years, I'm done with it, I'm going to pass on to somebody else. So, thank you, Joe. I mean, I think that you were a fantastic guy. I think that you definitely had Destiny's best interest at heart, but with you passing the torch on to somebody else, hopefully the game does improve. Not saying it was terrible, because I still play it all the time, but hopefully we see improvements. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on Joe Blackburn leaving. The state of the game will hopefully improve with Tyson Green coming in with a fresh set of ideas and stuff like that. And hopefully Bungie's upper management, the ones that have been saying we're going to stick to this seasonal model and stuff like that, hopefully they come to their senses and say, you know what, we should probably listen to the players and probably listen to the developers who listen to the players. Because that's another thing. This is a little side note I just wanted to bring up. I think a lot of people, they blame developers at Bungie for doing things. The developers know the player base better than anyone else. Like, they know what players want. We shouldn't be blaming devs. If there's a decision made by Bungie that players do not like, it's probably not from the developers. Outside of maybe some like nerfs to some weapons, because I know a lot of people getting really upset when their favorite weapons are nerfed and stuff. But that was just a little side note. Anyways, I want to hear your thoughts on Joe leaving. It's Jover, so to speak, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. We're gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss him, but hopefully it'll take Destiny in a different direction. Anyways, if you like the video, drop a like, helps the channel a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, and do me a favor, watch the videos you see on the end screen here, because for whatever reason YouTube thinks you will like them. Guys, I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.
Bye, have a great time.